dating a bandmate can be even harder than dating a co-worker. Musicians spend long periods on tour, making outside relationships tough to maintain. Being with someone in the band makes touring easier since you're together throughout, but it also means no personal space, even after arguments. Some couples like Pat Benatar and Neil Giraldo have made it work for decades. Others, like in Fleetwood Mac, faced intense drama that affected both love and music. Below, we've assembled a list of 25 rockers who dated their bandmates. 1. Bruce Springsteen and Patti Scialfa. Patti Scialfa joined the E Street Band in 1984 and quickly connected with Bruce Springsteen. At the time, he was married to actress Julianne Phillips, and Scialfa briefly dated Tom Cruise. As Springsteen's marriage unraveled, his bond with Scialfa grew. After divorcing in 1988, Bruce made their relationship public. Despite some public backlash, the couple married in 1991 and have enjoyed a long, steady relationship. 2. John Lennon and Yoko Ono. John Lennon and avant-garde artist Yoko Ono shared one of rock's most talked about love stories. Their romance started while Lennon was still married, but he wed Ono in 1969. The two collaborated on numerous projects, blending music and art. Their deep creative partnership was most notably seen in the Plastic Ono Band and the album Double Fantasy, which equally featured both artists' work. 3. Stevie Nicks and Lindsey Buckingham. Before joining Fleetwood Mac, Stevie Nicks and Lindsey Buckingham were romantically involved while chasing fame. Their relationship helped fuel the emotional intensity of Rumors, one of the band's most iconic albums. Though they broke up in 1976, they continued to perform together, keeping their professional bond alive despite personal tensions. 4. Stevie Nicks and Mick Fleetwood. After her breakup with Buckingham, Nicks had a short-lived affair with drummer Mick Fleetwood. Both were involved with other people at the time, and Nicks later described the romance as passionate but ultimately chaotic. The relationship ended shortly after it began, but the two remained in the band and agreed to move past the incident for the sake of Fleetwood Mac. 5. John McVie and Christine McVie. Christine Perfect met bassist John McVie while touring with Chicken Shack in 1967. They married in 1968, and Christine joined Fleetwood Mac 2 years later. Despite professional success, their marriage ended in 1976 after Christine had an affair. Their breakup inspired her song You Make Loving Fun, and although divorced, they continued working together for years. 6. Pat Benatar and Neil Giraldo. Pat Benatar and guitarist Neil Giraldo had an awkward first meeting when he showed up to audition without a guitar. Despite a rocky start, they felt an instant connection. After ending their previous relationships, they began dating and married in 1982. Their personal and professional partnership has lasted for decades, culminating in their 2022 Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction. 7. Paul McCartney and Linda Eastman. Paul McCartney met photographer Linda Eastman in 1967, and they married in 1969. Together, they formed Wings and released several successful albums throughout the 1970s. Linda supported Paul musically and emotionally, contributing vocals and keyboards. Their marriage lasted 29 years until her death in 1998, and they raised 3 children together. 8. Jack White and Meg White. The White Stripes burst onto the scene claiming to be siblings, but in truth, Jack and Meg White were once married. Jack took Meg's last name when they wed in 1996, though they divorced in 2000 just before releasing their second album, De Stijl. Despite ending their marriage, the duo continued making music together until disbanding in 2011. Jack later married twice more, while Meg faded from the spotlight, briefly marrying musician Jackson Smith in a wedding hosted in Jack's backyard. 9. Robert Plant and Patty Griffin. Led Zeppelin legend Robert Plant and acclaimed folk singer Patty Griffin formed a musical and romantic bond while working together in Band of Joy, and later, Sensational Space Shifters. By 2012, their relationship had turned personal, with Plant playfully referencing an elopement. Though never officially confirmed as a married couple, their connection was undeniable. The relationship ended in 2013, but their creative chemistry left a lasting impression on fans. 10. Debbie Harry and Chris Stein. Blondie co-founders Debbie Harry and Chris Stein were not just bandmates, but lovers when they launched the group in 1974. They rode the wave of punk and new wave success together, scoring major hits. When Stein was diagnosed with a rare illness in 1982, Harry stepped away from fame to care for him. Despite financial and personal hardships, their bond endured until their romantic split in 1987. They remained friends and revived Blondie in 1997. 11. Neil Young and Peggy Morton. Neil Young met future wife Peggy Morton in 1974. They married in 1978 and shared both a home and a musical journey. Peggy contributed vocals to Neil's tours and pursued a solo career. Together, they co-founded the Bridge School, helping children with disabilities. After 36 years of marriage, they divorced in 2014. Neil later married actress Daryl Hannah, and Peggy passed away from cancer in 2019. 12. Sonny Bono and Cher. Cher and Sonny Bono's love story began in 1962 and quickly evolved into a powerhouse entertainment duo. As Sonny and Cher, they scored chart-topping hits like I Got You Babe and hosted a hit TV show. Behind the scenes, though, their marriage crumbled under the strain of fame and infidelity. Their bitter divorce in 1975 marked the end of an era, although their legacy remains iconic in pop culture. 13. Gregg Allman and Cher. Shortly after divorcing Sonny, Cher shocked the public by marrying Southern rock icon Gregg Allman in 1975. Their volatile marriage included drug struggles and public scrutiny. They released one album together, To the Hard Way, under Allman and Woman, but it failed commercially. Their marriage dissolved in 1979, with Allman later saying Cher feared his return to substance abuse. Cher's experience inspired her emotional 1979 track, My Song. 14. Grace Slick and Paul Kantner. Jefferson Airplane icons Grace Slick and Paul Kantner were more than just psychedelic rock pioneers. They were also a couple. They began dating in 1969 and in 1971 welcomed their daughter China. While their romantic relationship ended in 1975, their musical partnership continued as the band evolved into Jefferson Starship. Slick eventually left music in 1989 to focus on art, while Kantner remained active until his passing in 2016. 15. Jillian Gilbert and Stephen Morris. Jillian Gilbert and Stephen Morris's story began in the gritty Manchester post-punk scene. Morris was already a member of Joy Division when they met, and following Ian Curtis's death, he and the remaining bandmates formed New Order, bringing Gilbert into the fold. As bandmates and romantic partners, they helped shape the sound of the 80s and 90s. Married in 1994, they've raised 2 daughters and continue to make music together. 16. Thirsten Moore and Kim Gordon. Few couples defined cool like Sonic Youth's Thirsten Moore and Kim Gordon. From forming the band in 1981 to revolutionizing noise rock, their nearly 30-year marriage ran parallel to Sonic Youth's trajectory. That all came crashing down in 2011 when Gordon discovered Moore's affair, ultimately ending both their marriage and the band. Despite the fallout, their influence remains monumental in indie music circles. 17. Lou Reed and Nico. The pairing of Lou Reed and Nico was brief but impactful. When Andy Warhol brought the German singer-model into the Velvet Underground's orbit, Reed wasn't sold at first, but Nico ended up singing on several tracks of their groundbreaking debut album. The two had a short-lived romance before falling out, and by 1967, Nico was out of the band. Still, their creative tension helped birth one of rock's most iconic albums. 18. Ike and Tina Turner. Their onstage chemistry was undeniable, but behind closed doors, Ike and Tina Turner's relationship was fraught with abuse and trauma. Tina first impressed Ike during a club gig, later joining his band and adopting the name he gave her. They married in 1962 and soared to fame as a duo. However, Tina endured years of physical and emotional abuse, ultimately leaving Ike in 1976. Their divorce finalized in 1978, and Tina went on to reclaim her legacy as a solo icon. 19. James Iha and Darcy Rretzky. Smashing Pumpkins' early days were marked by the intense creative energy between guitarist James Iha and bassist Darcy Rretzky, who dated for several years in the early 90s. While the band rocketed to fame with albums like Siamese Dream, internal tensions, including addiction and romantic fallout, eventually led to their breakup. Rretzky exited the band by 1999, and though Iha would later return, the original chemistry was never quite the same. 20. Boy George and John Moss. Culture Club was a hit-making machine in the 80s, and at its core was a secret romance between singer Boy George and drummer John Moss. Their relationship was passionate but toxic, fueling both their music and their undoing. Infighting, substance abuse, and personal clashes led to the group's breakup in 1986. George later reflected that their complicated love story was the driving force behind many of Culture Club's biggest songs. 21. Wendy Melvoin and Lisa Coleman. Wendy and Lisa, both members of Prince's legendary backing band The Revolution, were also a couple in the shadows. Childhood friends turned lovers. They joined Prince at the peak of his Purple Rain era. Though their relationship was private, it deeply informed their music. After The Revolution dissolved, they continued collaborating as a duo and found success composing for film and TV, never losing their creative connection. 22. John and Michelle Phillips. John Phillips met Michelle Gilliam while still married, something that didn't stop them from beginning a relationship. After marrying in 1962, they co-founded the Mamas and the Papas in 1965. Affairs, jealousy, and internal drama plagued both their marriage and the band. Michelle's fling with bandmate Denny Doherty and later with Gene Clark led to her temporary firing and eventual divorce from John in 1969. The band wrapped up for good in 1971. 23. Susie Sue and Budgie. Susie Sue and drummer Budgie were the dark heart of post-punk royalty. Their bond went from bandmates in Susie and the Banshees to lovers and eventually spouses in 1991. They also formed their own project, The Creatures. Though they split in the early 2000s, their artistic legacy endures, and Susie remains enigmatic when it comes to love and labels, once saying she never defined herself as straight or lesbian. 24. Tina Weymouth and Chris France. Before Talking Heads, Tina Weymouth and Chris France were already a couple. They met at the Rhode Island School of Design and married in 1977. Together, they helped shape one of the most innovative bands of the new wave era. After Talking Heads split, the couple found success with their funky side project Tom Tom Club. Still married decades later, they remain an enduring rock and roll partnership. 25. Delaney and Bonnie. Delaney and Bonnie Bramlett were a musical power couple before it was a trend. Marrying in 1967, they toured and recorded with some of rock's greatest legends, including Eric Clapton and George Harrison. Their blend of soul, rock, and country gained them widespread acclaim, but behind the scenes, tensions mounted, and the couple divorced in 1972. Both continued in music, but never recaptured the magic they had together. And that wraps up our journey through some of rock's most iconic love stories, full of passion, heartbreak, and unforgettable music. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss what's coming next. See you on the next musical ride.